Hi, welcome back to my channel. This is a tutorial number 9. I haven't done a tutorial in a while, so this is a continuation of number 8. And this will be all about the diagonal numbers. So before you proceed, if you haven't done so, please go back and watch the tutorial number 8. I will leave the link below. So you need to understand that before you can proceed to the number 9. Okay, so just a quick recap. Uh, so diagonal numbers like 7 and 2, and if the difference is 5, and only if the difference is 5, then all the spaces surrounding the bigger number 7 will turn into black spaces, and all the spaces surrounding the smaller number, which is 2, will turn into gray spaces. So since the difference has to be 5, there are only 3 sets of numbers where this condition applies. So there's 7 and 2, 6 and 1, and 8 and 3, right? But when you're doing a puzzle, especially like the more difficult ones, how realistic is it that you actually get to see 7, 2, 6, 1, 8, 3 perfectly aligned like this, right? Chances are probably not too many. And as you go into even more difficult puzzles, um, you just don't find too many of these, maybe a couple at the most, right? Then what good is it, right? Just for 3 sets. So if you're looking at the board and you see numbers like this where the difference of these diagonal numbers are not 5, do you just move on, right? So the answer is actually, it really depends, right? It depends on other black or the gray spaces, right? Um, in this area. So that means if you have a board where just like this, right, no black or gray spaces, just completely empty and numbers like that, then there's nothing you can do. So you do have to move on. But if the if the on the same set of numbers you do have couple of black spaces or maybe a few gray spaces in there, then maybe there are some things you can do, right? So what can be done? Right? So that's what we will see in this video. Um, so before we could jump into that, we're going to talk about 3 different areas. I'm going to sidestep a little bit. Um, okay. Well, let me just explain this first. So 3 different areas being um, the 5 spaces here that are surrounding the larger number, which is a 7. 5 spaces surrounding the smaller number, which is the 2. And then 4 spaces that are overlapping with 2 and 7. Okay. Just to clarify, when you say surrounding the 7, I mean surrounding is actually all this, right? Right? When I say surrounding the 2, surrounding actually means all these, right? But um, when I say surrounding, I'm just talking about these 5 and these 5, right? Um, okay, so first you need to identify those 3 areas whenever there's a overlap. Okay, and I'm going to sidestep now and just show you it's not just when the 2 numbers are aligned diagonally, but something like this, right? 3 and 7, right? You do have 3 spaces that are overlapping between the 2 numbers. And 1 and 5, they're not like perfectly in diagonal alignment, but you still have 2 spaces that are overlapping, right? Um, but in this video, we're going to look at the diagonal numbers only. Maybe I will do these in the future tutorials. So going back to this, um, okay, so um, every time we have 2 diagonal numbers, right? 5 here, 5 there, and 4 in the middle. Okay, and the first thing that I do is um, I approach the 2 numbers and I approach it from smaller number to the larger number. So I go from 2 to 7 and not the other way around. Okay, so um, when I differentiated these areas, okay, this is how you apply them, right? So again, starting with a smaller number 2 in this case. So for the 2, right, the 2 black spaces I need to complete the 2, I have to find out whether those 2 black spaces will be in this overlapping area or not. Okay, and I am talking about both of the black spaces, not just one, but all 2 of them. Okay, and in order to find out, the easiest way to find out is to color the spaces surrounding the 7, right? All the empty spaces surrounding the 7, just color them all black first. Okay, like this. Um, and to complete the 7, we have 5 spaces, so we need to find 2 more black spaces. Right? So we know that the 2 black spaces will be in this overlapping area. Right? So going back to the 2, right, we have just met that condition, which was are the 2 black spaces in the overlapping area, and 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 they are, right? So in this case, um, the 2 black spaces here will actually complete the 2, right? So uh, then you could mark off the rest of the surrounding area with gray spaces, right? And of course, we didn't completely finish it, but just we found we completed the 2 and the 7 like partially, right? So looking at the 2, yes, and the 7, yes, there are 2 black spaces, 2 of the 4. We don't know which ones yet, but at least we found out that these are gray spaces, right? And likewise for the 7, right? Two more black spaces in here. Right? We don't know which 2, but at least we found out that these 5 spaces are all black spaces, right? And of course, that's uh, uh, when when the difference is 5. You know, I think this I explained it. I explained it in tutorial number 8. Um, so now let's look at 8 and the 4. Right? In this case, again, I'm gonna start with a smaller number, looking at the 4, and I have to find out whether the 4 black spaces needed to complete the 4 will be in the overlapping area or not. So to find out, again, I am going to um, fill up the area surrounding the 8, right, with black spaces like that, right? And then let's take a look at the 8. I have 5 black spaces, so I'm gonna need 3 more black spaces, right, in the overlapping area. So 3 more, right, in the overlapping area. That means if you look at the 4, right, that doesn't meet the condition where the 4 black spaces needed to complete the 4 would not be in the overlapping area. Only 3 were, right? When that's the case, there's nothing we can do, and just um, get rid of the black spaces, and yeah, and go back to square one, and you move on. Okay, so that's how you find out whether that first condition is met. Okay, now let's look at 3 and 7. Okay, again, let's find out. The first condition is that the black spaces needed to complete the smaller number, right? Will they be in the overlapping area or not, right? So again, we'll fill up the um, area surrounding the larger number 7 with black spaces, right? And to complete the 7, we need 2 more black spaces, right? That means we're going to have 2 black spaces in the overlapping area, right? So the condition, right, that doesn't meet, right? So because we'll try to find out if the 3 black spaces will be in the overlapping area, but in this case, it's just 2. So that means it's not going to work. Back to square one, erase the black squares again, and then you move on. Okay, there's nothing we can do. Okay, now we're going to look at 2 sets of numbers, 7 and 3 and 8 and 5. Of course, just by looking at the two numbers, since the difference is not 5, uh, we can't do much, right? Uh, but then the black spaces here will actually help you. So let's look at 7 and 3 first. Okay. When we're looking at the 7 and 3, remember the first condition, right? To complete the smaller number, right? Do the black spaces land inside this overlapping area or not, right? So in this case, even though this is 3, we already have a black space here. So that means we're going to need to find 2 more black spaces to complete the 3, right? And we need to find out whether those 2 black spaces will be in the overlapping area, right? Okay. Uh, so again, we're trying to find if 2 black spaces will be in the overlapping area, right? Because we already have one here, right? 2 more. So let's just look at the 7 only, right? 7 only, right? So even though this is 3 here, right? When you're looking at just the 7, this is actually a 2, right? Because why? Because we are actually looking for 2 black spaces in this area, right? And in this case, right? Of course, since the difference is 5, right? That condition is met, right? Of course, the 2 will be in the overlapping area. That means if you look at the 3, right? The 2 more spaces, 2 more black spaces needed to complete the 3 will actually be in the overlapping area, right? So that means that condition is met. Okay, so um, of course, if it's 7 and 2, then yes, we just color the area surrounding the 7 in black, and we will color the surrounding area for the 2, but um, it's actually the all the empty spaces surrounding the 2. Okay, so we're going to color the empty spaces surrounding the 2 in gray. Okay, in this case, the empty spaces are actually this, and this, right? This is already filled, right? So you would um, right, mark it with black spaces for this, and then for this, right, all the empty spaces gets the gray, right? So it becomes that. This sounds a little confusing, so I'm going to explain just one more time. Okay, so to um, we need to find out first thing, right? The number of black spaces we need to complete the 3. Right? In this case, we need to find 2 more because of this, right? Because it just came with the black space. So we have to find 2 more black spaces to complete the 3. And we have to find out whether the 2 black spaces will be inside this overlapping area, right? That was our first condition, right? So um, 2 black spaces here means, I mean, you could look at it as, if you're just looking at the 7, it's actually a 2, right? Because we are actually looking for 2 black spaces, right? So this 2, right? The number 3 doesn't become 2. It becomes 2 inside my head, right? Because of that, this actually becomes 2. Now I'm trying to find if there are 2 black spaces here, right? And when I change that number to 2, right, this became 7 and a 2, difference of 5. Then we could apply that diagonal condition, right? Just black spaces here, gray spaces there, right? So we do the same thing, except when we apply the gray spaces, not all the spaces get the gray because one of the space is already filled with black space, which is here. So the remaining open empty spaces will get the gray. Okay, so let's take a look at another set of numbers, right? 8 and 5, right? 8 and 5. So 8 and 5, again, I'm going to start from the smaller number, right? So, okay, so 5, it comes with, not it comes with, but yeah, we already have two black spaces, right? That is um, two black spaces in the surrounding area of 5, right? So to complete the 5, we have to find three more black spaces, right? We have two already, so we have to find three more, and we need to find whether those three black spaces will be in the overlapping area or not, right? So now we're trying to find three more, right, in this green area, three more. So if you just look at the 8, right, so we're actually looking at, this actually becomes 3, right, because that's what we're looking for, three black spaces, right? And by doing that, the difference is now 5, right? Then we could apply that diagonal condition, right, where we just apply all these black spaces, this area, and whatever the empty spaces there are surrounding the 3, we'll fill that up with gray spaces, right? Since we already have a black space here and there, the remaining open spaces, empty spaces, right? This one, and that one, right? They get the gray, right? So this is 5, this is, right? But then when I see these, right? Inside my head, that becomes 3. And then now I just apply that very simple rule, right? Difference of 5. So what does that mean? That means um, the black space in area surrounding the smaller number, which is 3, will reduce the smaller number by the number of black spaces. Okay, that sounds pretty confusing. Um, that simply means um, whatever the number of black spaces there are in the area surrounding the smaller number, you will subtract that number from the smaller number. So the number is 3, and since we have two black spaces, we go 3 minus 2, right? And then that becomes 1, right? 3 minus 2. So when this becomes 1, now we have a difference of 5, right? Then I can apply, right, the black spaces to all the area surrounding the 6, and then apply the gray spaces to all the spaces, all the empty spaces surrounding the 3 actually, right? And that's what it will become, okay? Of course, again, this becomes 1 in my head, right? It's actually never 1, right? It's not 1. But um, as I've explained here, right, it's just temporarily, right? If you're looking at the 6 only, right, then this is actually 1 because we're trying to find that one more black space to complete the 3, right? So yes, you just have to remember that, right? So we're looking at the black spaces surrounding the smaller number, right? Let's say there's only one black space, then this will become 2 in your head, right? And obviously 6 and 2, difference is not 5, then there's nothing you can do. You move on, right? But in this case, since the difference is 5, then you could do all that, right? So one thing to remember is that to apply this condition, the larger number must be 6, 7, or 8. Okay? 6, 7, or 8. Uh, Remember, what we're trying to do is trying to see if after we apply all these, if the difference will be 5. Okay? So why it doesn't work for numbers lower than 6? So let's say this is 5. Um, and for the difference to be 5, right? If this is 5, then this has to be 0, right? And if this is 0, then all 9 spaces will become gray, right? We don't have to go through all that, right? And if this is, let's say, 3, right? Then to have a difference of 5, this has to be negative 2, which doesn't make sense. So that's why it doesn't work. And it cannot be, I mean, it could be, but if it's greater than 8, so in this case, we only have 9, right? If this is 9, then don't go through all this hassle. 9, that means all 9 spaces will be filled with black spaces, right? So that is the reason why the the larger number, right, has to be 6, 7, or 8. Okay. Um, okay. So this is a actual. I mean, this is an example, right? You will run into something like this, right? So I have this is the board, right? And you see all the diagonal numbers, but none of the differences equals to 5, right? But when you look at the 2 and the 6, right? Because the black space is in the area surrounding the 2, right? Remember, so that's one black space, right? So 2 minus 1, now this becomes 1, right? And you say, okay, this now that it became 1, the difference is actually 5, right? Then, okay, since the difference is 5, you're going to fill in the spaces surrounding the larger number, right, with black spaces, and you're going to fill in the empty area surrounding the smaller number with gray spaces like this. Yeah, gray. Okay. Um, Again, this becomes 1 in your head only, right? It never becomes 1. This is 2. Um, okay, so from what about here? Can we do more? Okay, so yeah, you could actually see the 3 and the 7, right? So 3 and the 7, right? Since there's a black space surrounding in the area surrounding the 3, right? So 3 minus 1, now this becomes 2, right? And with the 2 and the 7, yes, there is a difference of 5. So the same rule applies. All black spaces here, like that, and then all gray spaces here, like that. Okay. Okay, let's look at another example. Uh, okay, so this is the layout. Okay, so 3 and the 7. Okay, now there's a black space, right, in this area surrounding the 3. There's one black space, so now this becomes 2. 2 and 7, right? 2 and 7, so that will work, right? Black space is here, gray there. And let's look at the 2 and the 6. Right? Same thing, right? Because of the one black space, now this becomes 1. 1 and 6, difference of 5. So that will work. 5 and the 8, right? 2 black spaces in the area surrounding the 5, right? So 5 minus 2 is 3. So now this becomes 8 and 3, difference of 5. Again, black spaces, gray spaces, right? Let's look at this one too. Uh, 5 and 7, right? 2 black spaces uh, in the area surrounding the 5. So 5 minus 2 is 3. 7 and 3. So difference is not 5. So in this case, nothing can be done. And you just move on. Okay? So one thing that I just wanted to uh, mention here is that we're looking for the black spaces surrounding the smaller number, right? Right? That's all we care about. If you happen to see like gray spaces in the area surrounding the smaller number, right? They're useless. They're completely irrelevant. Right? They don't help us. It's only the black spaces surrounding the smaller number. Okay. Okay. So what about the larger number, right? Not the 3, but what about the 6, right? And so we'll take a look at that. Uh, so in this case, we have 3 and the 7, and there's a gray space in the area surrounding the larger number, which is a 7 here, right? 2 and a 5, 5 being the larger number, and if you look at this, there are 2 gray spaces in the area surrounding the 5, right? So those are the things that we have to look for, okay? Um, so let's take a look at that 3 and the 7 first, okay? So 3 and 7. Okay, so we have a gray space, right, in the area that's surrounding the 7. So remember, the first thing we do is we have to find if the three black spaces needed to complete the tree will be in this overlapping area or not, right? So in order to do that again, right? So first we fill up the all the open spaces surrounding the larger number with black spaces like that. We do that first, and then we'll see. So I have a 7 and I have 4 black spaces. So now I need to find three more. I need 3 more black spaces, right? So yes, those 3 black spaces actually will be in this overlapping area. Going back to the 3, right? That was our first condition, right? Those 3 black spaces, will they be in the overlapping area? And actually, yes, they will be in the overlapping area, right? So when that condition is met, right, then the black spaces here, they will stay, and the spaces surrounding the 3 will become or gray. Okay, so just like that. Okay, now let's take a look at 5 and a 2. Um, okay, just bear with me. I know this could be a little confusing. Okay, looking at the 5 and the 2, right? We had 2 gray spaces in the area surrounding the 5, the larger number, right? Um, so let's approach it from the smaller number, right? So 2 this time. So um, 2 black spaces needed to complete the 2. Will they be in the overlapping area or not? Right? So how do we find it? Again, we'll fill up the all the empty spaces surrounding the bigger number with black spaces. So we did that, right? Get the 5. So we have 3 black spaces, and we're going to have 2 more black spaces, right, in this area. That means our first condition is met, which is 2 black spaces needed to complete the 2 will be in the overlapping area, right? So since that condition is met, again, you will what you do is you will fill in all the empty spaces surrounding the 5 with black spaces. I mean, we've already done so, and then you'll fill in uh, all the empty spaces surrounding the 2, right, with gray spaces. Okay, but okay, so this here we looked at 5 and 2 and 3 and 7. Okay, so there's something that's very similar, right? When else do we apply this concept, the concept of um, just using all the black spaces surrounding the larger number and all the gray spaces surrounding the smaller number? When do we apply this? Right? We apply this when the difference is 5, right? And so we're actually doing the exact same thing, right? Once the condition is met, then yes, we fill in the yes again larger number, right? Black, smaller number, gray, right? Even though the difference is not 5, right? So that means um, that means even though this is just 3 and 7, even though this is just 3 and 7, when you have a gray space that's in the area surrounding the larger number, that will actually affect this number, okay? And that will affect it in this way. Um, Gray space in the area surrounding the larger number, which is a 7, will increase the larger number by the number of gray spaces. Um, meaning, meaning, since there's a 1 gray space in the area surrounding the 7, okay, that 1 gray space, that 1 will be added to the 7. So now 7 becomes 7 plus 1 and it becomes 8. Right? And then just looking at this, right, 2 by 2, right? So now we have a diagonal number with a difference of 8, right? And then we could just apply that, right? All the spaces here become black, and all the spaces here become gray, right? Now we're doing that because the difference is 5, right? Okay, so let's take a look at this. Okay, we have 4 and a 2, right? Now 4 being the bigger number, right? And there are 3 gray spaces in the area surrounding the 4 bigger number, right? So since there are 3, that means you do 4 plus 3, right? Do that in your head. So now 4 actually became a 7, right? It became a 7, and then since the difference is now 5, then we could apply that diagonal condition, right? The concept, which is once it's 5, then we'll fill up all the empty spaces surrounding the larger number with black spaces. In this case, 2 black spaces here and there, and then we'll fill up the area surrounding the smaller number with gray, okay? So when I'm doing a puzzle, this is what goes through um, in my head is I look at this, I go, okay, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this becomes 7 in my head, 7 and 2. Okay, 5. Then I just do, right, black spaces, gray spaces. Okay. After you add the number of gray spaces, and let's say this becomes like 2 and 8 or like 2 and 5, right, where the difference is not 5, then there's nothing you can do. You just have to move on. Okay, so it's only possible if the difference is 5. Okay, and this condition, when we were working with the smaller numbers and the black spaces surrounding the smaller numbers, there was a limitation, right? Which was the larger number has to be 6, 7, or 8, right? Um, but for this, the gray spaces against the larger number, there are no limitations. Okay, so of course we looked at 4 and 2, right? So let's take a look at another one, 1 and 3. For some reason, you will see I see many of these just like this in a lot of the difficult puzzles. Okay, same thing will apply to 1 and 3, right? So by looking at this, you have 3 gray spaces in the area surrounding the 3, right? So that means 3 plus 3, so it becomes 6, right? In your head, this is 6. So now you have 6 and 1, right? Difference of um, 5. So all the empty spaces here, that will become black spaces like that. And the spaces that in the area surrounding the smaller number 1 will become gray space, right? Okay, and lastly, we could actually combine them, right? So say you have a 7 and a 4, and then in this layout, right? Because of the gray space, right, in the area surrounding the 7, now the 7 actually becomes an 8 in your head. And there's a black space in the area surrounding the 4. So now 4 becomes 3, right? Remember, this one you have to subtract it from the 4, and this one you add to 7, right? So now, instead of the 4, now this becomes 3, right? So this is actually 8 and 3 now. Then um, you could color all the empty spaces here with black, and then you could fill in all the empty spaces surrounding the 3 with gray spaces. Okay, so I really wanted to make this tutorial for a long time now, but it was really confusing. So I really had to plan this very carefully, just because the last thing I want to do is make the tutorial confusing or hard to comprehend. Um, so I really hope this helped. When I did the tutorial number 8 regarding the diagonals, that simple concept, right, difference of 5, could actually use a deviation of that, and we could do all these, right? Everything that I've explained in this video. Um, yeah, that is it. I hope this was helpful to you, and hopefully I didn't I didn't confuse you in any way. Any questions or comments, please leave it in the comment section below. I really appreciate you for stopping by. Um, and yeah, so that's it. So thank you again, and I will catch you next time. Bye.